The U.S. President Biden will send $10 billion to Israel and $100 million to Palestine. He said, "We will stand with Israel and civilian people of Palestine." The U.S. President Joe Biden delivered an uncommon evening speech to the nation, elucidating his firm conviction on the vital importance of Israel and Ukraine prevailing in their ongoing conflicts. He seeks to garner backing for a substantial assistance plan designed to bolster the capabilities of these two nations. He said, "The terrorist group Hamas unleashed pure, unadulterated evil in the world. But sadly, the Jewish people know perhaps better than anyone that there is no limit to the depravity of people when they want to inflict pain on others. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people." Biden's address from the Oval Office came on the heels of a brief trip to Tel Aviv, during which he held talks with Israeli officials concerning the forthcoming stage of a retaliatory operation in Gaza. This operation commenced with an aerial barrage and might potentially transition into a perilous ground intervention. Much like his journey to Ukraine back in February, Biden embarked on a visit to a conflict-stricken region to demonstrate his unwavering support for a key U.S. partner contending with a foe determined to eliminate its existence. Biden's comments aimed to exert pressure on Congress, urging them to endorse an additional funding proposal that his administration intends to present. Biden is seeking a $60 billion assistance allocation for Ukraine and a collective $40 billion for Israel, Taiwan, and border security along the U.S.-Mexico border. He also announced that the U.S. will send $100 million in humanitarian assistance for Gaza and the West Bank. He said, "This money will support more than 1 million displaced and conflict-affected Palestinians, including emergency needs in Gaza." On the other side, he will provide $10 billion of aid, which was requested by Israel. The president affirmed his intention to promptly submit a budget request to Congress, emphasizing the importance of funding America's national security requirements and assisting vital allies like Israel and Ukraine. He underscored that this is a wise investment that will yield long-term dividends for American security. The president emphasized that this aid package will contribute to keeping American troops away from danger, enabling the construction of a safer, more peaceful, and more prosperous world for future generations, including our children and grandchildren in Israel. Biden finds himself in a vulnerable position as he endeavors to influence public sentiment regarding the ongoing conflicts. According to a CNBC poll, a mere 31% of Americans supported Biden's foreign policy approach, while a substantial 60% expressed their disapproval. He addressed the American populace, many of whom seem to be growing weary of the Ukraine conflict that commenced in February 2022 with Russia's invasion. According to a Reuters Ipsos poll, 41% concurred with the notion of the U.S. supplying weaponry to Ukraine, marking a decline from the 46% recorded in May. The United States has dispatched approximately $44 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since Russia initially deployed its tanks towards Kyiv. Before the address, Biden engaged in a conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the ongoing status of the conflict with Russia. Biden emphasized the ongoing robust bipartisan backing in the United States for Ukraine's defense of its sovereignty, territorial integrity, and democratic prospects. In Israel, the retaliatory offensive has already incited heated protests, with demonstrators demanding an immediate ceasefire. On Capitol Hill, approximately 300 protesters were detained after congregating inside a House office building, partaking in a demonstration advocating for an end to hostilities. This assembly included participation from rabbis and other concerned individuals. An Oval Office address serves as a formidable platform that presidents traditionally reserve for matters of national crises or messages of paramount significance. It was the venue John F. Kennedy employed to elucidate the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the platform George W. Bush utilized to reassure a frightened nation on the evening of the 9/11 attack. In Biden's situation, he is conveying the message that America's foreign policy stakes are intertwined with two far-off conflicts. He has contended that Ukraine's defeat would empower Russian President Vladimir Putin and result in the eradication of an autonomous democratic nation right on NATO's doorstep. Meanwhile, the Middle East conflict poses a challenging quandary, offering no assurances about what the future holds, even if Israel succeeds in ousting Hamas from Gaza. An Israeli ground incursion into Gaza places Palestinian civilians in a perilous crossfire, with limited means of escape. The densely inhabited coastal territory is often likened to an open-air prison, as described by Aaron David Miller, a former State Department expert in Middle Eastern affairs. While returning from Israel, Biden informed reporters that he had conversed with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi over the phone. El-Sisi had concurred to the opening of a border crossing into Gaza, facilitating the passage of humanitarian aid to aid the civilian population. Nevertheless, Biden cautioned that if Hamas seizes the aid, the supply will be halted. Biden also hinted indirectly that he is urging Israel to explore alternatives to a ground assault that could potentially lead to a significant number of civilian casualties. When questioned about the possibility of Israel refraining from a ground incursion, Biden responded, "We had an extensive discussion regarding that and explored alternative options." Biden additionally had a conversation with President Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, during which he affirmed, "I reiterated that the United States remains steadfast in supporting the Palestinian people's right to dignity and self-determination." He also said, "The actions of Hamas terrorists don't reflect the Palestinian identity." However, even as Biden expressed being deeply saddened by the devastating loss of Palestinian lives, he emphasized that the explosion causing the deaths of hundreds in a Gaza hospital was not the result of Israeli actions. He said, "History has shown us that when terrorists and dictators face no consequences for their actions, they continue to sow chaos, death, and destruction. They persist in their aggression, and as they do, the risks and threats to America and the global community continue to escalate." Biden also talked about Putin. He said, "If we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control of Ukraine, he won't limit himself just to the Ukraine." Biden pointed out that Putin has already issued threats, such as the statement to remind Poland that their western land was a gift from Russia. Furthermore, Dmitry Medvedev has referred to Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania as Russia's Baltic provinces. He also said, "All of these nations are NATO allies. For 75 years, NATO has been instrumental in preserving peace in Europe and has been the bedrock of American security. If Putin were to launch an attack on a NATO ally, we will stand ready to safeguard every inch of NATO territory, as stipulated and mandated by the treaty. This is not something we actively pursue."